Pizza presents SCP. The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle and Adam Wilde.
You ready?
I'm so ready.
Are you ready?
Man, I was born ready.
Were you born ready for this show?
I was. I feel like a JV star.
What are you making reference to, Steven? What genius, brilliance are you making reference to?
Shut up. Don't be proud of this. Don't you dare be proud of this.
Jesse liked it. That gives it credence.
Jesse likes awful things, though. So that's true. I feel like Jesse, before we started the show about 5 minutes ago, put my wallet in my coffee for fun. He thought it'd be fun.
It was. I had a good time.
How did I miss that?
You were here.
That's what you guys were talking about?
Yeah, you were just deep in show prep, and Jesse was deep in pretending my wallet was a donut.
That is amazing.
And or a biscotti for the Italians who are listening. And Adam recommended that we call the LFR today JV Star.
Am I right?
Boo.
You asked, and you took
Boo.
it. So is it on me for coming up with it, or is it on you for using it?
Oh, it's on me for using it.
Or is it on Jesse for endorsing it?
It's on, you know what? It's on Jesse for endorsing it because I caved to peer pressure. Really badly.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm the kid that all the PSAs we watched in grade 8 were aimed at. Don't be affected by peer pressure, kids. Yeah, smoking's bad. Thank you, video. Hey, Steve, let's go try smoking. Well, I mean, my friend said to, so.
I have grown up with him. Hey, so I want to read you guys the best lockout tweet I have, or lockout. Oh my God! Wow.
What is going on?
Not lockout.
There are no good lockout tweets.
Trade deadline tweet, not
There's
lockout
exactly
tweet.
one. The lockout is over.
That was a good tweet. No, the trade deadline tweet that has been my favorite thus far, and it comes from a real account.
What?
Yeah, not Bob McKenzie. Or
I got a text last night from someone going, "Wow, this is a lot of pressure," and they thought they were being followed by Elliot Friedman, and they
There's a trade. There's a trade.
they quickly realized
There's a trade.
it wasn't Friedman.
There's a trade. Is it
There's a
Jerbeck?
trade.
Is it Jerbeck from the
Jerbeck was traded.
Yeah.
Oh, we knew that.
Damn it.
For a fifth, right into my veins.
First of all, the correct term is we have a trade to announce, and you got to
True.
say it like Gary Bettman.
No, what was our?
And you got to get booed.
What was our poop thing we did last time? We had a fart button.
What? What?
It was like we had named an episode Ding. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because everything kept happening, and I was like, we're gonna ring a bell, and then we made some joke about how the bell would be like a fart. It just every time we hit
Just
the bell,
interrupted
it's
by a
like-
fart?
Yeah.
I don't
Wow.
remember
You
doing
guys
that.
I don't remember having this
Let's
conversation.
do it anyway.
Like I've said, every time we do like a get together with our listeners, people are like, "Hey, when you were talking about," and I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking. I don't remember. I don't remember any of it."
The episode Jesse's talking about could be from last week. It
Yeah.
could be from last year. I don't know.
So sorry, go.
On June 23rd, 2017, we had an episode called Ding.
Are you serious?
Yes.
I honestly, to God, thought that was 2 weeks ago.
No, I don't.
so
It was a year and 2 weeks
That
ago.
must have been draft time.
What, February? Wait, when?
June 23rd.
June 23rd. Yeah, it would have been draft.
That would have
So
been.
deals were happening around the
Vegas.
draft. Oh, maybe it was Vegas trades announcements.
Because-
It would have been for sure like the Islanders trading, half the team to protect people and like
Wasn't Chris Johnson in studio with us?
No, he was not.
And he
We
was-
called Allie Monroe.
Oh, I remember that one. Okay. I remember that interview.
Oh, that's right. We talked about all the Steelheads prospects and other OHL people.
Yeah.
I
Anyways,
remember that.
This
I
is
remember
a long
Allie.
point for nothing. But anyways.
There it is. Silly season. There are silly things happening. What do we talk about first? Do we talk about that weird?
Well, no, we had to
Leaf
talk about
game?
this tweet. Let me talk about this tweet.
Oh, the tweet.
It's my favorite
Right,
tweet.
sorry.
And this comes from a real NHL insider, you guys.
I was like, why are we flapping in the wind? Oh, wait, Adam threw to something and we interrupted him again.
I was told
That's what I do.
a club just asked a certain player about waiving to go to a team on his no-trade list in the last 24 hours. The player turned down the request, as is his negotiated right, and he only wants to go if it makes sense for his career.
Wow, and that is from @SmartInsiderMan.
One more time. Who tweeted this?
I was told, I'm not going to tell you.
No?
I was told a club just asked a certain player about waiving to go to a team on his no-trade list in the last 24 hours. The player turned down the request, as is his negotiated right, and he only wants to go if it makes sense for his career. So he turned it down, but might not turn it down. We don't have a player. We don't have a team. We don't have anything. I could tweet that same thing. And it came from who, Steve Dangle?
Well, this person, according to their Wikipedia, Brian Robert Lawton. Brian Lawton is an American former professional ice hockey player, agent, and general manager.
Yes, he was. He also works for the NHL Network.
Lawton played for the Minnesota North, blah, 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 and was the Tampa Bay Lightning general manager. That guy was the Lightning GM, and he's tweeting stuff like like a bot.
It was like, so a guy turned down a no trade, but he might not, but it has to make sense. No team, no player. Like, it's
why can't you reveal that?
It's just words.
It's just words, man. But that's why I love trade deadline. It's wild. It's wild and crazy, and weird shit like that happens.
That's the interesting thing about sources and what I really admire about insiders, because they must have so many sources. Because I've gotten information on things before where I've gone, oh boy, I could tweet this, set the world on fire, and then I'm like, okay, the second I tweet this, everyone's going to know who I spoke to. So, like, you need layers of information and layers of confirmation.
You got to wait and wait before even releasing, like, sources or telling me. And it has to be sources.
Yeah, so the impression I got there was not that he was BSing. It was that
if he revealed anything, he'd blow up a source.
You'd just be like, oh, it's them. It's just that person.
I mean, instantly what came to mind was Rick Nash to Winnipeg. Because they're in on him.
Why are you extrapolating on this nonsense?
You shouldn't analyze this tweet.
You're right. So let's get back.
I read that Brian Lawton said JVR to Winnipeg. Wait, no, Rick Nash to Winnipeg?
Yeah.
Both. They need help on the wings. One of the best offenses in the league isn't good enough. They need JVR and Rick Nash.
Couple notes. Andreas Johnson out of the Marlies lineup today. He's got
so that he can play on the Leafs wing because JVR got traded to Winnipeg. I read Brian Lawton said that. Sorry.
Brian, insider man. Andreas Johnson is out of the Marlies lineup because he's got an injury. There's like an oblique strain or some sort of thing, which, I don't even know what that is. So he's
obliques?
Out. Yeah, people were just like, "Oh my God, he's going to get traded." Not true. Leafs win against the Panthers last night, and I got to ask, how are teams not calling about Roberto Luongo? If you need a goalie, I keep saying this, Roberto Luongo, he might retire in a couple years. That contract's off your books because he's got one of those illegal contracts.
He sure does.
But in the meantime,
Adam, 2022.
He signed till Roberto Luongo or Dustin Brown.
I don't think anybody wants
to
trade
how much is he making?
4.5.
Yes. Now, what do we know about the cap next year?
It's going up.
When it goes up, he'll be 39 is what we know.
Right, but it'll go up to like 80 million. So that's a conservative projection that it goes up to 80 million next year. Mm-hmm. Are you telling me Roberto Luongo at 4.5 for a guy that can play you 40 games, 45 games?
40-year-old man.
But he's still playing great.
Well, devil's advocate. So I was watching that game.
What does it cost you?
I was watching that game, and when a goalie is stealing the game from the Leafs, I feel like I'm usually aware of it and screaming about it. That did not strike me as Roberto Luongo almost stealing a game from the Leafs, or even as Freddie stealing a game from the Panthers. Mm-hmm. That was one of what I'll go ahead and call God's games, where God decided, no, there's going to be one goal tonight. You're lucky you're even getting that. This should have gone to a shootout, young man. That's how it felt. Marleau should have had a hat trick on his own.
Yep.
Leo
should have a three-game goal
hit
streak.
The crossbar. Matthews hit the inside of the post. Like, come on, the Leafs should have. They were inches from lighting Luongo up, getting him yanked.
But did they?
I suppose not, Adam.
There you go.
I suppose. Yeah.
So just like Tim Tebow, why not have God's goalie on your team?
When does Roberto Luongo's baseball career start? That's what I want to know.
Luongo's also only played 17 games.
Okay, last year he played more, didn't he?
What are his numbers?
He played 40 last year.
Yeah.
So he's not a workahorse. He does have a 9.29 in his 17 games.
And he got injured this year. That was part of the reason why he hasn't played that much.
Which would make him look less appealing.
Which would cost you nothing. He'd cost you nothing.
No, he'd cost
and
you
then you
4
throw him on LTIR.
No.
Like, I don't understand.
And there was some weird thing about, like, if Shea Weber decides to retire early, there was some bizarre thing about the Preds have to pay a cap penalty or something like that, even though he's not on the Preds anymore. So would, like, the Canucks be screwed or something like that if...
Well, that's not your concern.
No.
I guess not.
That's completely out of your hands.
And even the Canucks probably wouldn't even know until it started happening.
Well, I mean, Adam, they got defensive stalwart Erik Gudbranson to pay.
We'll get to that. So here was the most interesting part of that game, because honestly, parts of it were really boring. To me, it was after the game. Given the trade deadline coming, the question, and I was watching the press conference because I always run it on Sportsnet afterwards, which I love.
Dabs is friggin' gems, eh?
This was great. So the question was about JVR scoring the goal, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, he's just one of those guys that can make that into a goal. Not all guys can do that. Yep. To which the follow-up was, how do you find going into the trade deadline? How do you find handling going into the trade deadline with JVR on an expiring deal? And Mike Babcock could have said, I don't think about it. That's where he could have gone with this.
Yeah, well, it's not up to me. It's up to management, and I like having him on my team, and I'll like having whoever they bring in on my team.
That's what I would have expected. Yep. Here's what Mike Babcock said. I don't think it's an easy decision. You always have this plan, but your plan can change. It depends on what people want. There are lots of times you are not planning on doing anything, and you end up doing something. Babcock continued on JVR. We don't know what's available and what we could pursue either. I'm sure they do actually know what's available and what they could pursue. The way I look at it is, instead of worrying about that stuff, just keep playing good, give ourselves the best opportunity with whatever is best for our team, we will do. That was interesting.
I'm trying to decide if that's a non-answer that means something or a non-answer that means nothing. Because, I don't know, the first part of that sounds an awful lot like JVR is getting traded. Or they've talked about it seriously, and then the back half is like hockey nonsense, where it's just, we go out there to win and we try to be good.
Right, which is, that's really the only thing you can do when you got a guy on an expiring deal. But it sounds like it was like a message like, we're open, we'll look at it, and they should be.
How do you, I keep going back to, what kind of an awful, awful message does it send to your team that is tied for 5th in the league, I think, if you trade your second leading goal scorer?
Depends on what comes back.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to know. I'd love to know.
I don't think you're trading him for a package of 7th-round picks. Like it's, and I don't think that sends an awful message, honestly.
Depends.
If we listen, let's rewind a little bit to Chris Johnson when he was in here, and one of the last questions I asked him, which I really meant to be one of the first questions, was he talked about the new leadership on the Leafs. Right? Frederik Andersen, Morgan Riley, Austin Matthews. They all went on vacation together at the end of January when they were on their bye week. And when Freddie called the team out, he said, we got to see who's invested here.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to ask Chris about, because he mentioned this.
And JVR was doing really poorly at the time.
He was.
Worth mentioning.
And he extrapolated on it a little bit, and you should go back and listen to his full answer, because there's no way I'm going to do it justice, because I remember nothing. But the crux of the argument here is that those guys are from the previous regime where they lost a lot. And they deal with losing in a different way than these new young guys who are not used to it. And the new young guys, at least, and again, this is what I'm getting from the opinion of Chris Johnston, he was very careful with his words,
yes,
is that there is a changing of the guard afoot. And maybe this sends a message like, okay, guys, this is your team now.
That's a hell of a way to say it. Hell of a way to say it. I just don't know how you get enough for JVR.
But maybe it's not.
I guess it's
you don't get enough. It depends on what you get. But if it gets you that right-handed defenseman, because you're going to have to give up something plus JVR to get that.
Well, who's going to be willing to give up a right-handed defenseman of consequence for a winger
or a prospect or whatever? The point is, like to me, if you're gonna throw I don't want to say hypothesis. It's not what I'm looking for.
Hypothetical.
Hypothetical. That's it. You're throwing out a hypothetical here.
What are the hypos?
Look at one of the 4 or 5 teams that are in on Rick Nash. You got Dallas, Winnipeg, Nashville, and I believe who else do I have? We'll get to Rick Nash, by the way.
Who's the other hypoallergenic team?
Yeah, Nashville, Columbus, Winnipeg, Dallas, Boston. Those are the 5 front runners. 5 front runners.
Bunch of
the fist of teams, the closed fist of teams, punching the door down to get Rick Nash out of
freedom. Twirling. Okay, anyway. What are you getting at?
Yeah.
There's going to be 4 teams that lose out. America. There's going to be 4 teams that lose out on him. Maybe you're a general manager that knows. Okay, so let's say I'm Jim Nell and you're David Poyle, and I know you've got more to give to get Rick Nash and more on the line to get Rick Nash, and I know you're pretty much going to get him. If I get a call from Lou Lamoriello that says, what can you hook me up with for James Van Riemsdyk? And let's say those things are Winnipeg. Does JVR have a no trade? I don't think so.
He does. Partial.
Okay.
That's been the interesting thing I was reading about this morning in 31 Thoughts is like a guy like Mike Hoffman said no. Like it came.
And they still explored it.
But like Friedman made a great point. What's wrong with Mike Hoffman?
Yeah.
The Jets are one of the best teams in the league. Like this isn't some team scraping by. You only get a certain amount of chances to win. Like, I mean, he didn't say this, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. You were a goal away from the Stanley Cup final. You should know that more than anyone. And wasn't he in the Stanley Cup final with the Rangers?
I think so.
And Freeman's other point was that
come on,
Winnipeg, because they score so much, they'll set you up so well for July
for your contract.
Come on,
somebody will look at your numbers and be like, "Wow, the back half of the season, you played really well."
And look at that playoff run. How many contracts are signed? How many dumb contracts are signed because of a guy having a good 10 games in the playoffs?
And it's cold in Winnipeg. Well, you go ahead and get the nicest condo, the nicest, warmest condo. $5 million a year will buy you.
And you know what's interesting in Winnipeg is that they have heaters. And real estate's cheaper. So you can actually buy a big heated condo and block the heat out.
My basement just...
You have to live there for
3 months.
In the spring. In the spring.
Well, I think he's got an extra year. He's got an extra year left.
Oh, God forbid.
My basement just flooded. You know what I wish it was here? Cold. I wish it was cold right now. I wish it was below freezing.
So my question is, what is Winnipeg willing to give up for Rick Nash? Especially considering he has also put them on his no-trade list, but is considering opening that up. He's considering waiving that for them. If I am Toronto, I'm going, hey, what's the deal looking like? Why wouldn't you? That's good negotiating. And even if you hang on to JVR, that's what you do.
The only thing is that I wouldn't want futures. Like, I don't want a whole bunch of 2019 draft picks for JVR.
I want a shot to win this year.
Now. And I don't know if a team who needs JVR can give up something that would help the Leafs now.
Picks don't do much for me.
If there's something where we can win now and trade JVR, then you do it.
You know who I would have loved is a Samuel Girard. That's a guy that, obviously he was traded for Matt Duchene. So, but if you can find somebody in that realm, right? And I'm not saying that JVR alone would get that deal done. But if you could find a guy who is literally, we haven't found room for him in our lineup, but he's for sure ready, and by next year he's going to be a starter. But Girard's playing all the time and with the Avalanche and has been playing well. Mm-hmm. If you could find that type of guy in any of those systems, there's 5 teams there. Winnipeg's a great drafting team, especially Winnipeg. Columbus has got some depth. What do you look at?
But you look at where did Girard go? He went to Colorado, the last place team from last year. We're not in that. We're 3rd in the conference.
But I would argue Girard would be in our lineup. He's good enough.
Replacement level over worth trading JVR.
So sorry, here's
good question.
Here's what I just found. It's a deal that looks appealing. I mean, you're not going to get this kind of package.
Karlsson.
But it is
that's appealing.
It is for sure. But this is a team that sold last year, still did okay in the playoffs, and they got the flavor of trade package that I would like.
I know you're going.
Kevin Shattenkirk and Phoenix Copley go to Washington in exchange for Zach Sanford, Brad Malone, a 2017 first, and a 2019 conditional second. Now, I don't know much about Brad Malone.
Focus on Sanford.
Yeah, he's mostly a minor leaguer. But yeah, Sanford is a former second-round pick and it looked like he was on the verge of kind of playing in the NHL and having an impact. It looks like he's had a really bad season. Has he been injured?
I don't know, man.
He must have been injured. But at the time, that's exactly the sort of deal I would have liked, because I think he went straight into the Blues lineup. But a younger guy. So, like, who's a defenseman who's, like, on the verge out there? I think Gerard was actually a really good suggestion.
That's what I would think. And the reason I think about that is, yes, we want to make a cup run this year, for sure. For sure we do. But let's not pretend that the Leafs don't have guys ready to graduate right now. Are they going to get 30 goals for you? Probably not. But they are players that probably could have been in the NHL from the start of this season. Kasperi Kapanen moves up. I'm talking about like Andreas Johnson, Carl Grundstrom, stuff like that. So you got that coming in your pipeline. The other thing is this, and this we'll just jump right into the trade talk thing.
Sure.
Erik Karlsson is available. The only team with the cap space and the pieces to probably get it done, and I don't know how Tampa has the cap space, they're going to have to throw another contract back, is Tampa Bay.
Yeah, they were talking about that on Hockey Central on the way in, and boy, it makes a lot of sense. I hadn't heard it put the way that Kyprios put it, which is if you get Karlsson, you'll have this crazy window of still being the Lightning, but you got Karlsson on this less than $7 million a year deal.
Crazy.
How?
Crazy.
How? For the next year and a half. And also Kucherov.
Yeah.
You'll have two of the top 10 contracts in the league?
Two of the top 10 players in the league.
Yeah. Plus,
more, but.
Plus, you got one of the top 10 wingers for sure, one of the top 10 defenders. You got Steven frickin' Stamkos. You got Victor Hedman. You could argue he's a top 10 defender in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Vasilevsky. You could argue he is the goalie in the league. Like, that's a team. Mm-hmm. That is a window. Now, the one thing Doug McLean, who was a former GM, or I guess is a former GM, dug in about was, I need to get a roster player back. Vlad Nemestikov, I think, is a name that's been thrown out there a lot from the 31 Thoughts. You had someone else.
Alex Killorn. Got a big contract. He's got like 11 goals this year. Probably needs a little more ice time. Good centerman. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to lose Brassard, Killorn sure looks good.
Yeah, there's a couple reasons to get Brassard, right?
Killorn. Yeah.
If you keep Brassard, then your center depth is Duchesne, Brassard, Killorn.
Pretty sweet.
That's all right. If you get rid of Brassard, then, I mean, you got to ice a hockey team.
Yes, exactly.
Killorn does have a no-trade clause. I don't know if it's a short team list, but he does have that.
Is it modified? It's
just NTC.
Wow, how did he get that deal?
Yeah, there's
That's
a lot
a
of
bad
smelly no trades out there, man.
I would much rather take Nemestikov. And he's also playing on the third line right now in Tampa, so he's expendable.
The problem with Nemestikov
for them,
for them.
is that he's a restricted free agent at the end of the year. And so Ottawa might be worried about the money concerns there, although I have to be honest with you. I don't know if I think he happened to be just the guy playing with Kucherov and Stamkos. Not to diminish his talent, but I don't know, and I could be corrected on this, I don't know that Nemestikov has ever been projected to be a first-line guy.
He was a first-round pick.
So you're thinking he's more like Connor Sheary, who gets.
Well, I don't know about Connor Sheary.
I see what you mean.
Who gets on a line with Crosby
or Kunitz, or
Kunitz is an Olympian, Adam.
Kunitz,
how dare you?
Who plays for Tampa Bay now?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But I wonder. Because here's the thing. The other thing I've heard is that if you want to take Karlsson, you also have to take Bobby Ryan's contract. Which
then right? Okay.
Where did that come from?
That's several people, but Pierre LeBrun was one of the guys that suggested that.
Oh, wow.
I don't understand. Okay, first of all, a winning team is going to be a team that's trying to acquire Erik Karlsson. Therefore, they're probably smart. Therefore, they don't want Bobby frickin' Ryan.
Yeah.
Second of all, they don't have the space.
Nobody's
odds
got the space.
are, if they're a good team.
Two teams, from what I can see, that have the space. That really have the space. Montreal and San Jose.
Vegas
does. Yeah.
Vegas. That was a fun one. Again, Hockey Central. Jeff Merrick was suggesting Vegas should go for it. Kyprios is like, do you really think George McPhee is going to, in his first freaking year, get rid of all these assets he just acquired? And Jeff goes, well, what makes you think it's George McPhee making that decision? It's probably the brand new owner, Bill Foley, going,
why not?
Let it ride. We have a chance to make history.
It's Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby. Yeah, I got sitting at the table with the hot hand. I I don't understand that. But also from Ottawa's perspective, you have the biggest bargaining chip ever.
And this is the height of his value.
And you're going to dampen it with Bobby Ryan. Now, it's worth more to Ottawa because you get all that money off the books. It's a super tough situation. I'm not going to scold them because there's two schools of thought here. One is getting that money off the books is worth, several first-round picks to them because that's just their reality. But their reality is also that they're a hockey team. And at some point, you got to make the decisions that are best for your hockey team. Then comes the argument, well, the decisions that are best for the Ottawa Senators are they got to save money. Like, this is brutal. How do you have the biggest bargaining chip of the last God knows how many years and you squander it because of a bad contract?
Well, and that's the other thing. I think we've got, and when we talk about Gudbranson, I really want to touch on this. I think this is really important. We are used to the cap going up like $1.5 million. The cap is going up at least $5 million. We're going $80 million, guys.
It sounds like
it might be more. And that's the thing is that the money coming in from Vegas, the money coming in from Seattle, the money coming in from the huge deal up here for sports rights, the fact that the league is far more profitable than it has ever been.
Yeah.
This cap is going up. So Bobby Ryan's contract, do you really want to tie Bobby Ryan's contract to an Erik Karlsson deal when that contract, the impact on your cap is going to diminish year by year by year?
It's not a cap problem for the Sens.
I know that, but
actual money problem
for sure.
That's
but that's the point. The rest of the team is going to be young kids. What if Karlsson is the guy? If Karlsson is the Eric Lindros, right? Because I feel like the right trade and the Ottawa Senators in a couple of years could be an enormous force just because of this Erik Karlsson trade. Like the team giving them whatever they get could help win them the
Forsberg.
cup. But you know what I mean, right? Like there's a chance here that they could bring in such a haul of assets that it would turn the franchise around in the next 24 months.
You could bring in assets with all the cap space you get from getting rid of Bobby Ryan. Adam, I would never do this. I'm just trying to throw all the... I'm trying to get into old assets. Lake Eugene's...
Get on the forget salary cut. Do that in the summer. Work out a deal where you can split Bobby Ryan's salary and he can go play somewhere else in the summertime.
This is the problem. No one wants him, so they're using their best bargaining chip to get rid of their worst.
That is a terrible idea.
I think it is too. I don't know. What do you think, Jesse?
What if it's your only chance to get rid of Bobby Ryan?
This is what I'm saying, bro.
Then I still hang on to Bobby Ryan and grab as many picks and prospects as I can.
But then, it's because it's not like they're working under the cap. They're working under their own cap.
Yeah. I keep going back to what Tyler
But they're not going to go out and sign any free agents, guys. They're not going out and signing any free agents.
If they had an extra $7.2 million, they might. There's two guys right there.
I do not envy the Ottawa Senators. Or there are other... I mean, look what the Kings did with Dustin Brown. I mean...
Rehabilitation.
When you're smart and you bring in the right people,
he was not making the lineup last year. That guy.
That was one of the worst contracts in the league when the season began. And now, I mean, it's still not awesome, but at very least, he looks like a current NHL player. Can you do that with Bobby Ryan? And if you can, I mean, still, the Sens' reality is they have no frickin' money. They're in a bad spot. Ooh, one suggestion I saw, I want to say it was from Acton Afulaman on Twitter, is what if the Sens could work out a deal to send Karlsson to Colorado, and part of the package they get in return is their own first-round pick back.
That's so dumb.
That's really dumb.
It's interesting to me.
No,
it's
not.
Interesting. I think it's interesting.
No.
Watch it happen.
No.
Why Colorado? I mean, that's funny, but like, come on.
Oh, I don't think they would do it.
No, Tampa. But listen, here's the deal.
Barry would have to come back.
And I'm gonna bring it back to the Leafs for a second, just because it involves two other teams. Okay, so you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you're looking at this division, and I think the Toronto Maple Leafs have a legitimate shot. But do I think Boston and Tampa in the first two rounds present a pretty huge problem for them?
Yeah.
And here's the thing: think about if these two deals go through, Erik Karlsson to Tampa, as has been rumored, mostly rumored, and Ryan McDonagh to Boston, which has also been rumored. By the way, they just completed a trade for Nick Holden,
that's right.
which to me I think benefits the Leafs. I think that's great. Let's bring on Boston. New York Rangers fans were like, yes, I never have to watch him give away the puck again, which I love. But that's the if those two teams, and what if Boston ends up with Rick Nash and Ryan McDonagh? Is this the year when you can sell on JVR and next year come back with, I got a right-handed defensive prospect who was right on the cusp anyway, and we gave him some time in the playoffs and he learned a little bit. And then next year I'm better team and more to me it makes sense. It makes sense that if they do end up moving him, depending upon the comeback, if they can get that prospect, I'm in.
There is so much. Ooh, there's a little bit of breaking news, sort of.
Okay.
Alain Vigneault adds that Chris Kreider has been cleared medically, but will not travel with the team to Montreal. Said he could play Friday or Sunday. Alain Vigneault also adds Shattenkirk, McDonagh, and Pavlik have all been skating. So that actually connects right to what you were talking about. The Rangers, who are announced sellers, are getting some potential sellable assets back.
I'm just saying.
Big. So I thought Kreider was off the table. I thought he was done for the season. Imagine some team goes out and gets him.
You know what sucks, by the way? Because Grabner got injured around this time when he was with the Leafs, we got nothing for him. That was Parento. Oh, Parento. We did trade Grabner.
No, we didn't. He just sucked.
Oh, okay.
It was unbelievable. He's had 2 back-to-back great seasons, son of a gun.
So now he's worth, are you ready for this? I hope you're sitting down. A second-rounder plus.
Damn it.
Isn't that nuts? And they wanted to re-sign him. I know that.
He was a cap dump. He was a cap dump to the Leafs.
And they've said afterwards, though, they're like, we would have totally re-signed him. We just didn't know where he would fit in.
Oh, Babcock would have loved him.
I think he did love him. And in that, so anyway, and as we said, Erik Karlsson asking price astronomical, of course. One thing I do want to talk about is there's a couple interesting things. We got to talk about Eric Fehr and we got to talk about Erik Gudbranson. So we'll start with Eric Fehr, and I think there's more to the Eric Fehr trade, which is literally the least important thing that happened yesterday. Like let's be honest, NHL wise, but it's interesting from a Leafs fan perspective because according to Cap Friendly, the Leafs were, this is before the trade happened, if the Leafs were to trade Eric Fehr, whose contract is currently buried in the minors, it would further reduce their LTIR spending by $975,000, and as a result, increase their accessible salary pool to almost $6.5 million ahead of Monday's trade deadline space. So you went from 5.7 to 6.5, and that doesn't sound like a huge difference, but it's a huge difference.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I've had explained to me over and over again. I don't understand how, you're just allowed to spend over the cap, but, you need to spend up to the cap.
Yes.
In order to
spend over the cap.
I don't think they wanted to sign Roman Polak to the money they signed him to. It's just that was the dollar amount that made sense to get them as close to the cap as possible, and his number was almost identical to Fehr's buried number, and what the hell? I don't understand it. Mm-hmm. So this is good, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it's a good move, and they've got 48 contracts.
Yeah, that's pretty big, man. In the last week, the Leafs have freed up 2 roster spots and got a confirmed pick back for both of them.
The word is, too,
no conditional.
The idea here is they don't want to go back to 50 contracts. They don't like the Leafs of anything like flexibility.
Yeah.
And so they don't. The goal, you shouldn't expect that they come in and go, well, that means they're going to get 2 players. That's not what that means.
Glendening.
This is them getting rid of guys that didn't have a spot in the lineup that they could get rid of for something. A 4th and a 7th.
It's unbelievable you were able to get anything for Fehr.
And that means...
wasn't even in your organization.
But that might mean that they stand pat from here on out, right? You have to understand, too, as much as we just talked about JVR for half an hour, it's kind of one of those things that they're not... No team wants to be at the 50 contract limit.
God, I have a hard time believing they're going to stand pat. They're fidgeting.
They are.
They're fidgeting.
Let's talk about Eric Good contracts and...
Yeah.
Random trivia.
Oh, let's hear
Name the only team in the NHL currently at 50 contracts.
That's a good question. I'm going to say Detroit.
It's got to be Detroit.
Okay, incorrect. The correct answer is the Arizona Coyotes.
Whoa.
You're kidding.
Yes, there you go.
That would have been my second choice, actually. I know I'm saying that afterwards, but that really actually would have been.
Final trivia question. Name the 2 teams who have the least amount of contracts at 41.
Ottawa?
No, I'm going to say Florida and Colorado.
Adam?
Ottawa and Vegas.
Oh, Vegas.
Florida
E.
and Dallas.
Oh, really?
Dallas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that. I just know in the summer I saw Florida and who was the other team I said? I forgot. Colorado. They were hovering around. Like, I'm just looking at them going, are they going to ice a team? Like, they didn't look like they had enough.
True.
But, I mean, I don't know. They always get there.
So Erik Gudbranson, 3-year extension in Vancouver.
Yeah, but
$4 million a season.
Yeah, but
And there was 2 reactions on Canucks Twitter, which there always is. There was the small group of people who said this is terrible, and then there was a big group of people that said that's great, heart and grit in Canada.
And look, I've met Erik Gudbranson. He seems like a nice man.
A good Branson?
He seems like a great Branson, Adam. Wonderful Branson. One of the best Bransons I've ever met. A handsome Branson.
Got a good mustache,
He's very
Branson?
Branson.
There you go.
He's good Branson. But $4 million is nuts.
Would you say the Canucks paid a Bramson?
King's Branson.
Yes. Sorry,
Jesse,
terrible.
if you feel like quitting the show right now, you can.
This is that great.
I'm sorry. Sorry, man.
Not impressed today.
JV Star.
So
That was
this
a lot better. We should have left it there.
What? Fine. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. You should censor every time we make a good Branson joke and just throw in JV Star.
Oh, just JV Star over.
Yeah. Would you say he's a JV Star? That's insane. I can't believe he got
he would have
$4
not
million.
He never would have got that in free agency. There's no way.
I don't know, man. Look at Olsner. Look at Girardi.
Yeah, but Olsner, that was a bad deal, and everybody knew it. Except for Olsner. That's great for him.
Yeah, it happened. You know, just because everyone knows it's a bad deal doesn't mean it doesn't get signed almost every time. This is the NHL, baby.
So
it's a crazy place.
Tyler Dello brought up a really good point, and he said, Gudbranson, if I forget who he used as an example, but he used somebody as an example and said, like, if this person is worth a third, and I think it was Nick Holden.
Okay.
He said, would Gudbranson at least not be worth a second? And he said,
I think he'd be worth more, yeah.
So if you're re-signing this guy and stopping yourself from drafting, and then here's the other puzzling part, which came out on Hockey Night in Canada this past weekend. They want to add a big, tough forward.
You're talking about Jim Benning, who, you know, he looked like he was redeeming himself for a while, but he was part of the management group in Boston that traded Tyler Seguin because they thought he was too cantankerous of a young whippersnapper. They're like, well, he might turn out to be a star, but does he fit in with our culture? Have you seen that, like, notorious video of he was in the room, man. He was in the room. And, you know, to Gudbranson's credit, teams look for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
It helps that he's big, has a long stick, a Chara-like long stick. Did you read that freaking quote?
No, I didn't read that part.
Benning
Chara-like.
Benning tempered his own comparison, but he did partially compare him to Chara a little bit.
Are Pete Chiarelli and Jim Benning just trying to rebuild the Boston Bruins that they built?
Dude, the 2011 Boston Bruins, 7 years later, are still ruining teams.
The Canucks still ruining the Canucks.
Everyone, teams have been trying to recreate the 2011 Boston Bruins for 7 years now. None of them have succeeded. Not one. Maybe stop doing it. Maybe quit it.
Maybe the game's changed.
Yeah, but no, it's only been 7 years.
People think 2011 was yesterday. It wasn't. It was a long time ago.
Also, hey, Gudbranson,
you'd already be in grade 1 if you were born in 2011.
Gudbranson, first of all, that hurt my feelings. Second of all,
grade 2 maybe
is 26. He's still developing. Did you read those ones?
So I got another one.
People are nuts. People are crazy. Like, okay. But no, to Gudbranson's credit, he's big. He's got the long stick, whatever. He's not putting up points. He's not doing a lot of the on-ice things you want a player to do. He's not a superstar. But he knows that teams, including the one that he currently plays for, put crazy super-duper value on being a good pro and a great leader in the room. By all accounts, he's that. Some guys, look, guys don't have the easiest time being a good person or being a good leader. You hear it all the time. So-and-so's a dick. Hey, so-and-so puts up a lot of points, but he's a dick. Do we really want him on our team?
Wasn't that what they said about Radulov? The 2 times he parachuted in and then left?
How about Seguin? How about Taylor Hall? How about this guy, that guy, the other guy? We've heard, Evander Kane and Jack Eichel and, this guy. It doesn't even have to be, they're a bad person. It can just be they're difficult to deal with. And, I think there's a reason P.A. Parento, despite being a decent player, is not in the NHL anymore. I mean, how many bridges could you possibly burn? Gudbranson has, it sounds like, watch something come out, I don't know, but it sounds like he has put himself in a position to make a lot of money by being a good guy. I wouldn't pay him $4 million to be that good guy. Some people would, and he knew that. Good for him.
Okay, I have a question.
Could have stomped around Vancouver being an asshole. It doesn't sound like he did.
After Jesse's question, I have a quote.
Okay.
We'll add to your Bim Jennings quotes.
In defense of Erik Gudbranson, what position do you expect him to play? What role on the team?
A big, abusive defenseman.
Second pairing?
No.
I think he's a third pairing guy.
Third pairing penalty killer. Polak.
Is that where they're going to play him, though? Or are they going to give him second pairing minutes?
They might have to.
I assume they're going to give him second line minutes because you don't put you don't give $4 million to a third pairing defenseman.
Okay, so let's assume he's your second pairing defenseman.
They're putting him in a position to fail too. This is going to hurt his career in the long run. I think, but
he'll
have $12 million. I don't think he'll
have $12 million, but maybe he could have made more.
Just so you know, he is their first pairing defenseman because Tanev is out.
Yes.
Oh.
So he's a second pairing guy.
Insane.
So let's assume he's playing on the second pair. His money is fair for a second pairing defenseman. And then you give him that little raise because he is good in the locker room and he's a good culture guy.
The old Tyler Bozak defense. Because when he signed his deal, a lot of people thought he was overpaid right away. And then I'm looking at it going, okay, it's not all based on production. Like, you can't just give him, $1.5 million and then be like, also, you're our first line center. Mm-hmm. Every night he's going out there. He's facing the toughest competition. Yes, he gets to play with JVR and Kessel, but that is the guy you're trusting to go in there and play with JVR and Kessel. So I guess when it comes to ice time, he is appropriately paid, but that is a misuse of funds.
But if you're the Canucks and you're slotting him into that role, you can't be like, hey, we're gonna put you in this position, but we're not gonna pay you like that. We're gonna make you manager, but we're gonna pay you like you're busting the tables. Like, that's not how it works.
Well, it is if you stand your ground in negotiations. You say, this is what you, at an NHL level, because a lot of them, they use NHL comparables, right? Mm-hmm. So when they say, listen, your numbers are this, your underlying numbers are this, like your advanced numbers are this is what we see as your value as a player. Whatever role they play him in doesn't matter. It's we see you as a good guy, and we see you as contributing these numbers, and that's it. At least that's how I would handle it. But I'm sure, Jesse, you're right. I think that's exactly how they handled that negotiation, how they came up with that number.
Here's what I'm trying to figure out. Oh my God, I don't get this. Okay, in his rookie season with the Panthers, 72 games, career high, by the way. 72 games, missing 10 games is the most he's ever played. 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points.
Hockey's a tough sport.
I know we're just going on points here, but bear with me here. 32 games in the lockout shortened season, so he missed, 16 games out of 48? Mm-hmm. 4 assists. 2013-14, 65 games. 14-15, 76. I was wrong. So it was career high 76. So that's a pretty healthy season. 2 years ago with Florida, 64. Last year with the Canucks, 30. This year with the Canucks, just 42 so far. So his career high is 13 points. He's reached 70 games twice. If you prorate it for the lockout shortened season, no, he wouldn't have reached 70 games that season either. So this guy gets injured a lot, doesn't score, doesn't get assists, doesn't look like he moves the puck based on that. What made you? Where did you come up with 4?
Well, what did his camp start with? That's what I'd like to know. Okay, we'll take $5 million.
Comparable in the league that makes $4 million. I think, who was it that said negotiation? You, Adam?
What do you mean?
There's got to be something you got to negotiate a little better. Like, you got to name your price, and if he doesn't come under that price, you got to walk away. Because where did you get 4 from? It certainly wasn't anyone else in the league.
And here's the thing: they knew he didn't want to go to free agency. They knew that.
Also,
so that's a negotiation piece.
I don't remember where I read this from, but he had them a little bit by the nards because that Gudbranson for McCann deal with Florida, that was met with a lot of anger when it happened. You let Gudbranson walk, you're admitting failure right away. But if you get a second rounder that's not failure, it's a terrible deal. Terrible deal.
The question here,
for a person who is probably the sweetest darling, but shit, that guy should not make $4 million.
In the context of the next few seasons, though, when the cap does rise precipitously compared to what we've seen before, $4 million.
Word. $4
million may not hurt you as bad as it feels like it would in the past. So I understand. I don't like the deal either. Because to me, Erik Gudbranson, it was just Justin Bourne who tweeted at me and said, I'm not sure that he's better than Roman Polak.
No, and that was another thing where I was looking around the league going, well, he's similar to Roman Polak. I'd take him as, I guess, an upgrade if you can get him for cheap. A, it sounds like it wasn't going to be cheap. B, it sounds like he wouldn't even be an upgrade on a guy who broke his leg last year.
Yeah.
Okay, Leafs fans listening right now, I know there's a lot of you. Think of how much you don't like Roman Polak. Imagine every night icing a player worse.
We did for many years on the Leafs.
No, but on this team.
Oh, on this team.
The entire roster, Adam. Almost exclusively players who are worse. That's absolutely mind-blowing to me. I don't get it. I don't get where the number 4 came from. I just don't get it.
No. I don't know that this hurts them as badly as it maybe would have 2 years ago.
What was Jim Benning's quote?
Oh, I got to read this. This is great. So this was sent to me. Gupri, thanks for linking this to me, buddy. It says, Jim Benning's answer when asked if Erik Gudbranson's underlying data is a concern to him at all. No, because I think we need some pushback, some physicality on the back end. We have to make it hard for, playing teams that have good players that get to the net. Sometimes, the data, the things that don't show up on the data are important. And I think what Erik brings us is important. So that is the mentality. That's the mentality quote right there. Now you know. That's why the deal was made. That's the mentality.
What he brings us.
And doesn't show up on the data.
Does that win hockey games?
We'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out. If Erik Gudbranson is lifting the cup next year or in the next 3 years, then we're wrong.
Okay.
But it will be mostly Brock Besser that gets them there, I would think.
Brock Besser, how many goals would Brock Besser have to score to have his name mentioned more than Gudbranson's?
100. He'd have to break Gretzky's record.
Yeah.
He'd have to go 200 goals.
I feel bad for him. This has been amazing.
But even then, it would be the byline would be Besser scoring 100, and it would be how Gudbranson is hockey's new McSorley.
Yeah.
He's the new protector. He's the new friggin'... I feel bad because it's hard to have this conversation without being insulting to Erik Gudbranson, who I've met, but that's lunacy. That's lunacy. Also, I'm so sick of the locker room thing. I get it, okay?
It is
you need
important.
leaders in the room.
You do.
It's important. How juvenile are hockey players?
Pretty juvenile.
Let's have
from what
that
I understand.
conversation. Like, Jesus Murphy, what he brings to our team is so important. Every team is willing to bend over backwards to bring this type of player in and grossly overpay them. Lead yourselves.
Okay.
For the love of God. Like,
But that's the difference, man. The Leafs did that in the Marlies. How many guys did they overpay? Colin Greening might be one of them. And no offense to Colin Greening, who's had a great year. Who was it before? Was it there was a guy 2 years ago that they gave bonuses on to every player that graduated
Justin
from
Johnson.
Yeah.
and he was just a gym rat, and he barely played.
And I think he played like 8 games.
And are we not throwing stones? Because don't we have our own Gudbranson in our lineup?
Oh,
Matt
dude,
Martin?
I'm not saying
Well,
the
not
Canucks
for the
are
last
silly
15
for
games.
thinking this way and the Leafs are all-knowing and smart. Every team does this, and it drives me a little bit nuts.
Maybe there is something in this sport.
well, and
Also, to Roman Polak's credit, he makes less than $4 million.
But did we not give Matt Martin a 4-year deal?
It's-
And
Come
we
here
hate-
and where's he?
and be a culture guy?
we hated it from the time it was signed.
We
But
hated
it
it from the
worked
time it
for
was
a
signed, and
season.
now he's out of the
It
lineup.
worked for a season and a half.
He's out of the lineup, and it's working better.
It was square peg round hole, I would say, for a season and a half. I don't think that, to be honest with you, like, did Matt Martin to you ever look in place?
On a handful of nights, but
Is
He
that
had a 2-assist night.
he sure did? You know when Matt Martin looked
that one night, him and Marner.
Matt Martin looked his
destroying-
best when Brian Boyle and Kasperi Kapanen were playing with him.
Yep.
Period. End of story.
No, he looked best on the Islanders.
Yeah.
Maybe we should help him look better again.
So just throwing that out there. Okay, so here we got to move on to. I do want to mention
And bless those folks. I know nothing about them, but you shouldn't be paid that kind of money.
Jim Benning wanting to add a big player who has physicality and still makes plays, which is just the most old hockey thing I've ever heard. Elliot Friedman said it could be something like a Nick Bukestad in Florida, Nemestikov in Tampa, or Brock Nelson from the Islanders. Now,
It sounds like he wants to add Jake Virtanen. This guy's a nut.
he's not a nut.
He's a nut.
He's not a nut.
He's a little bit of a nut.
Well, okay.
Yes, Jesse?
How soon does Jim Benning get fired?
He's just got extended, so
When is 2 Summer Olympics from now? So not the upcoming
long
one, but the
time.
one
So-
after. Yeah, then. That's when he
6
gets
years.
fired. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just don't know if he knows what he's doing.
Nemestikov's name has
Well,
come
we
up.
have 6 years to figure it out, Jesse. Hey, he's still developing.
He is still developing for sure.
Crazy. Just a crazy sport, man.
When you're out and you're listening to the insiders, wherever they are, talk about what it costs you to get a rental, what it's going to cost you to get someone like, I don't know, Rick Nash, right?
Sorry, Adam. I just had to look it up.
What?
Jim Benning, former player.
Yeah, for the Leafs.
To our conversation from last show.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, it always works. Former 6th overall pick of the Leafs in 1981,
There you go.
and then he went to the
He
Canucks.
went below Gudbranson, who was a 4th overall pick. I
Third.
believe. 3rd overall. There you go.
Third
He was a
overall.
third overall pick.
Yeah.
And I want
By-
to say 2009.
That makes sense.
10, I think.
That's how people were drafting
10?
back then.
And by
2010.
Florida.
That's right. That was the Taylor Tyler year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Adam.
So, if you're a general manager and you're seeing what the cost of a rental is, a cost of like a Rick Nash,
So you want me to pretend to be a general manager?
pretend to be a general manager.
Adam, you seem like a good guy. Here's $4 million.
Man, I would love for you to be a
You have a
GM.
big body. 10 million.
I don't though. That's the problem. So
Jesse, you seem like a good guy. Here's $4 million. Oh, fuck, now I I don't have any money left.
Yeah.
How did this happen?
Jesse's
Who could have predicted?
Jesse's Chara-like reach.
He's got a long stick.
But
What
Where did
Jesse
it-
brings to the show can't be measured in data.
where did all your money go?
I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to spend it. I think our show's still a contender, though. We're going to catch Skip one day.
But you gave all these guys all this money because they were good at being good guys.
Listen, season seat holder, who I have to sheepishly look at the floor as I explain why we're shitty again every year. Sorry. Yes, Adam?
First off, Patrick Maroon.
One day you'll get through this.
Patrick Maroon is sitting out of Oilers practice this morning.
Really?
Now, one of the things that somebody said to me, something I read on Twitter, no one said it to me, is that
That's a deep...
Guys, I also said earlier that here's my favorite lockout tweet. So I'm not on my game this morning or this afternoon. It is the afternoon. Is that
Not on my game this summer.
Is that the interesting thing about Patrick Maroon is that if he doesn't cost all that much, do the Leafs trade a JVR and pick up a guy like Pat Maroon? And not for each other. You trade JVR one place, you pick up Pat Maroon from the Oilers after.
See, okay. Now, let's say the Leafs pull that off. And Patrick Maroon ends up, they get a boatload of stuff for JVR. And they get Patrick Maroon for
I can't wait for them to paddle that boatload of stuff over, by the way. Boatload. Just a boatload of stuff. Canoeing over. Canoeing up to Canada. So excited. Sorry, continue.
I'm taking that $4 million back. That's mine.
You should
That's
be paying
mine.
me for my puns, sir. And my illusions.
You know what? Shit. Here's what Carl Elsner got. Here's even more. Anyway, I don't even remember what I was saying.
You were talking about boatload of stuff, JVR, Pat Maroon.
JVR, okay. So, I've thought about this before. So, you get a boatload of stuff for JVR. You pay less for Patrick Maroon. Patrick Maroon comes into your lineup, and he does what you want him to do. He's big, he's abusive, and he can also hang out in front of the net and bang in some goals similar to JVR. And maybe he's a little better on the other side of the puck, too, so it roughly evens out. Roughly. I said roughly, everybody. Is Peter Chiarelli and other GMs around the NHL, are they not perceptive enough to see that that's what the Leafs are doing? Because if your plan is to get my guy for cheap and sell your guy for a lot, I got to know that you're making me look like a sucker here. I got to know that the perception of this it's not going to look good. Oilers fans are not going to appreciate me being had, especially at the Toronto Maple Leafs expense. Surely he's got to be perceptive
They're not going to appreciate it, but maybe they're used to it.
Okay, well, we got apathy, so there we go. That's good. That's good. No, that doesn't... Peter Chiarelli, I mean, he's made questionable decisions, but he's got to know that that's what's going on, and it looks terribly, probably for a reason. If something looks bad, maybe it's because it's bad. Right?
I don't know.
Does
it look bad? Like, here's the thing. If it's the best you can get for Patrick Maroon, does it make sense to hang on to him?
No. Hey, you sound a lot like Lou Lamoriello. You think he's got his hand on his shoulder right now, Peter? And it's two Pisons. Peter, listen, gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. There's mandolin music in the background.
Do we know what day Lou's daughter is getting married?
On the day of my daughter's wedding. No, see, it's
Hopefully it's
Lou
July
making
1st.
a request to Peter, though.
Oh.
So the Godfather role is a little switched. Lou, what can I do for you on the day of my daughter's wedding? I like how our reenactment of that scene is not the actual reenactment, it's the Simpsons reenactment.
The Simpsons anything is the only correct reenactment of anything.
Exactly.
There you go.
You got it. I just... Yeah, Adam, to your point, I mean, that makes sense, but I just... It looks bad. No matter... Whether you do it or not, it looks bad, I
But
think.
Patrick Maroon looks like the perfect replacement for JVR.
He'd be a decent one.
Mm-hmm. He may not score as many goals, but he's also cheaper.
I would
For the 2 months we need him, he looks like a good
And I
fit.
don't even think he'd be a rental. I think he's on another year.
No,
isn't he?
he's a UFA.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. He's definitely a rental.
Here, let me look him up right now. I love having my computer in front of me. Such a luxury, Jesse. This is how you live? My goodness.
Like, he's on a bad team, has scored
Hey, man, he had 27 goals last year. He's got 14 already this year, 30 points in 57 games. So where's JVR? Van
What are you
Riem's-
gritting your teeth at?
His numbers before the last 2 seasons?
Well, we only need him to perform for 2 months.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
He's been used in a completely different role.
If you were-
He's 8 points back of what JVR's got.
But JVR just has 25 goals. Everybody gets hung up on the goals amount. He has 13 assists. So it's not like he's racking up massive points. There are some guys that score goals. They're finishers, and there are ones that don't. I don't know, man.
Marleau.
Yeah.
Marlowe's kind of one of those guys. Bit of
Although he sort of
goal
has a
suck.
reputation as a passer, as a setup guy. And yet, in the last 2 seasons especially.
Well, because I think in recent seasons he's had to kind of evolve a little bit.
Right.
I think this is a good trade deadline. I don't know. You guys always make fun of me for being a pessimist, but I think I'm really optimistic, this time of year. Because I'm always like, every single deadline, I'm like, this could be a big one. This could be a big deadline. Hey, this summer could be the craziest we've seen in a long time. But I think, I've said in the past, teams sort of have trading in the salary cap era figured out. They've had over a decade to figure it out. And they're willing to get creative. They're willing to do strange deals. Like, the Eric Fehr deal the deal that brought Eric Fehr to Toronto from Pittsburgh.
Strange.
That was a strange deal. Or a 3-way deal like the Duchesne one. Like, maybe those make a comeback. Because, all we keep talking about is no one can freaking afford anything. Well,
Get creative. They haven't been creative.
get creative. I think the Leafs have been very creative.
Sure. But I don't think the rest of the league has. I think Arizona's
Some
been
teams.
creative. Some teams have, some teams haven't. And I think the ones that haven't have been burned by it.
Rangers have been somewhat creative. I think this deadline will show some creativity, especially with all's been quiet on the Pacioretty front. We're already hearing Karlsson is astronomical in his own right, and then throwing Bobby Ryan in there is nuts. The Rick Nash possibility. The Leafs as a team are one giant wild card. Andreas Johnson misses one practice. Oh my God, are the Leafs trading him for someone big who they can use in the lineup? Are they going to get Glenn Denning? Are they going to get Patrick Maroon? Are they going to sell JVR? Are they going to sell Bozak? Are they going to sell Komarov? I don't even know what the Leafs' plan is. It might be nothing. I have no idea. It doesn't seem like nothing. They just freed up 2 roster spots for what? No reason? For fun? Because they really wanted a 4th and a 7th?
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Why not?
I really wanted a 4th and a 7th.
But what I was going to get to earlier was that, okay, so you know what the costs are for these rental guys, right? They're very expensive. If you're already going to pay a first-round pick plus, to me, it makes more sense to pay whatever, just that little bit more to pay for a guy who's got an extra year. Don't you think?
I don't think it's a little bit extra.
Do you? Because I don't.
Well, what's a little bit?
Well, if it's okay, let's say it's a
second.
What's Rick Nash going to go for? First round pick and what?
I don't know about first round pick for Rick Nash, but maybe
What's Ryan McDonough going to go for?
A second play. Now
First
we're
round pick.
talking first.
Because he's a defenseman
And good.
and good. Okay.
And what has he got? 1 more year or 2? I don't know.
See,
Anyway,
I feel a lot more
I would
comfortable giving up a first round pick if I get another year out of that person.
1 more
Yeah,
for McDonough.
1 more year.
1 more year. So
If I get 1 more year, if I'm
you can justify that.
You can. See, to me, a first round pick for a rental guy who may or may not be gone, or and it may not be his choice. He may want to resign him. I just don't have the money. To me, it's like, okay, what's the extra cost of getting a guy that's going to be around for at least next season? That to me is worth a first round pick plus. A Brassard. I know Tatar and Nyquist have been thrown in there. Ryan McDonough. Guys like that to me makes I could swallow the first round picks. We know what happens when you trade first round picks. You always get burned by it. But sometimes it's worth it.
Sometimes.
It's going to burn you a
How
little bit.
often? It's very interesting.
And that's the thing, is that's why I have an issue with throwing first round picks at guys that are, you know what I mean? That are gone.
I just don't know the last time the Leafs traded a first round pick that it turned out well. I don't think it's.
When
ever
was the
happened.
last time they even traded one? Kessel?
Yeah, I'd say that turned out pretty bad.
It did?
Oh, no, they traded one for Freddie.
Oh.
They traded Pittsburgh's
Yeah.
for Freddie. And then Anaheim drafted Sam frickin' Steele with it. But the Leafs got, I don't know,
Freddie
a
Anderson.
Vezina candidate. Like, I don't feel bad about that.
That to me seems like a trade, an equal trade.
It's funny. So I was looking at the Leafs pick situation and just going, I noticed a trend here. So they got all these Sharks picks. They got a Blues pick.
Mm-hmm.
They got a Ducks pick. So they just made a trade with the Sharks. A few days before they made a trade with the Blues.
Uh-huh.
Their last trade before that was Golden Knights. Ducks, Coyotes, Ducks, Blue Jackets, and then Ducks. But
We're going back to 2016 here. They don't make a lot of trades.
But what I was going for was they seemed to like dealing exclusively with Western Conference trade partners. But then I looked at last year's trade deadline, and within a week or so of the trade deadline, Devils, Lightning, Penguins. So, whoops.
Yeah, but those were all like Steve Oleski and Victor Louvre and Sergei Kalinin and
They're big buy. They got Brian Boyle.
okay,
I know.
and it could have been Val Filppula too.
Yeah, Sergei Kalinin for Victor Louvre was not exactly a barn burner, but okay, fine. Then we get Pittsburgh and Tampa,
And Frank Corrado for Eric Fehr.
who they still use. He's still in the Penguin system. Good for him.
Hey man, I don't hate Frank Corrado. I just don't think he would be on this team. So I think it was a good deal.
He's played 5 NHL games this year. That's a lot. Compared to last year, that's a lot.
It's a lot for
He
sure.
actually, just looking at it, he played 2 with the Leafs and 2 with the Penguins last year. He has surpassed his total from last season.
There you go. Hey, let's do one more story here, and then we're going to do the press conference, okay?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the last story here is, and this is just sort of a yes or no question. Is
Yes.
this a coincidence? The Flames, teams have their father's trip.
Yes.
The Flames have a mother's trip.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that cool?
That's very
I think that's
nice.
great. I think they should do one for each. That's fantastic. Moms and dads, all part of it.
I've always wondered why they don't do that.
I think it's, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't have an answer for that.
I don't know.
You normally have an opinion, I don't. So the Flames are doing a mom's trip. And interestingly, it's on the road. Jesse, if you know the answer, don't say it. Can you guess the location of the Flames' mother's trip? Where are they going? Because the dads for the Leafs got to go to New York. So where are the Flames taking their moms?
I would have said Toronto had I known, or had I not already known they'd played here. Because I feel like half the Flames are from the GTA.
Yeah. But that's not really a trip. Why would you? Oh, I'm going to take my parents back to where they live. I'm going to fly you to Calgary and then fly you back home.
I'm going to take my mom from Newmarket to the big city.
In the winter.
Hey, Mom, I got you tickets. Get on the GO train from Brampton.
I see why you don't plan your own vacations.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to say Vegas, baby.
Jesse.
Okay, so my thinking of this is you wouldn't bring this up if it was like, hey, they're all going to Nashville, because then it'd be awesome. So it has to be somewhere shitty. So I'm thinking, with the recent news, that they're bringing all of the moms to Winnipeg.
Oh,
Wow.
Winnipeg is not shitty, okay? Winnipeg's just cold. Steve, you say Winnipeg because of the way I brought it up?
Yeah, you wouldn't bring this up if it was like, hey, they're all going to Nashville.
So why do you say Vegas?
Because it's a big tourist destination. There's lots of wholesome fun you can get up to in Vegas.
Well, you nailed it. They are going to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That's easy.
But what's interesting about that
could've
is,
said that.
and I got to give Eric Francis for, credit for asking this question. The article says they swear it was a coincidence. As in, the Flames are going to Vegas, and their mom's going with them was a coincidence. Sure, it was a coincidence.
Just like Connor McDavid's birthday and a week off.
Just like the Leafs played there January 1.
Yeah.
Like,
No, New Year's
coincidence.
Eve.
31st.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. Coincidence. Like, no.
Yeah, sounds like it.
It sounds like they want to avoid the Vegas flu.
Hey,
Having their moms around.
Good strategy, right? I think it's brilliant.
I think the moms are going to be too wasted to watch their sons.
That's the thing, is you would think you'd behave around your mom, but once you become an adult, it's like, well, let's have some fun. It's my mom. Let's hang.
You can do it, honey! Mom, I'm one of the healthy scratches. I'm sitting right beside you.
can. I still love you and you're handsome. I think you're handsome. Look at how handsome he looks.
Which one's mine? It's just
Look at that boy, Johnny.
no, I'm just picturing them all hammered.
So cute.
They all turn into Ryan White's dad. Have you ever seen that clip?
No.
It was like the Coyotes' father's trip, and he was holding out his jersey to someone who was heckling him in the stands, and then he gives him the finger.
That's awesome.
Legendary. Legendary.
Let's do the press conference.
The Presser. SDP.
I'm not sorry.
Steve Dangle Press Conference.
Do you guys know the story of Elizabeth Swaney?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Swaney or Swaney?
Swaney? Swaney?
I don't know.
I don't know if I'm saying it right. It might be Swaney, might be Swaney.
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
She's a 33-year-old American who's currently in the Olympics representing Hungary.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing about Elizabeth is that she's just a regular-ass person.
Oh, no. I've seen this video. Oh, no.
It's the best.
So to get into the Olympics, Swaney needed to finish within the top 30 at a few World Cup skiing events. After competing in half-pipe contests around the world, Swaney finally qualified in December. Now, she didn't qualify and finish in the top 30 by actually competing and finishing in the top 30. She went to events where there were less than 30 people, and occasionally, sometimes people would get injured, and she'd be like 25 out of 30, or there would just be 15 competitors, so she would finish 15th. And she managed to qualify for the Olympics. So then, have you seen the video of her run?
Yes, I have.
You need to look this up. It's the best.
Really.
She just basically skis the half pipe and does no tricks.
I'm trying to think of how many people I know who could do what she does already.
Yeah.
Anyone who can ski.
Well, and didn't she
Yeah,
qualify
probably.
for another country, and then she decided to qualify for Hungary because her parents are from Hungary?
Yeah,
Or
so
grandparents
her
are from Hungary.
grandparents are for Hungary, and because of Hungary's rules on, hey, we need to send an equal amount of men and women, and we want this amount of representation, that nobody was really qualifying, so she snuck in, and she's
That's
like, I'm going to
embarrassing
be
for the
one of
country,
those
though.
people.
Is it embarrassing?
Is it embarrassing?
Or is it a normal person doing something pretty freaking brilliant, actually?
Well, you know what it is? I don't think Caroline Cameron tweeted this, but I saw her retweet it, was every Olympic event should have just a regular person compete in it for, what is it, not context.
Yeah, but for context.
Just as a comparable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Like, whoever loses the bronze medal game or whatever should have to face a beer league team and just kill them.
The thing is, what I love about this is that she will always be able to say, I was an Olympic athlete.
I was an Olympic athlete. And she didn't, fall and wreck herself. This is her own Eddie the Eagle moment.
I don't know Hungary, their geography that well, but there are a lot of countries nearby Hungary that are really good at skiing. Austria being one of them.
Mountains and stuff.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if the Alps extended to Hungary, but they probably don't. But I
have no idea.
I am surprised that they couldn't find another skier better in this entire. Like, look at her go. It's just.
Oh my God, she pizzaed.
You need to watch this video. It's amazing.
If you pizza,
She does go off she's not going slow.
So is this an inspiring story?
Oh.
Or is she just
She could fall.
staggeringly rich and was able to do this for herself?
I think it's brilliant. No matter what, she found a loophole and she got into the Olympics.
Yeah. Which, you know what? I know, it's pretty bad.
So great.
No, but I was just thinking about, do you know the story of Eddie the Eagle?
Well, there's a whole movie, right?
Yeah, have you seen them? Yeah. So, everyone was like, oh, that's great. And he sucked at his event. But, I don't know. There's something about the event that he did where you're like, man, I'm impressed that you even did that without dying.
Yeah.
This is not quite one of those events. Whatever. She competed. You're right. I'm being a Scrooge.
So are
Good
we
for
on
her.
the side that she is a hero?
She's a hero.
Okay. Let's too
Hero.
No? Regular person gets into the Olympics because she's so dedicated to
Statues
finding
in
a
Oh
Hungary.
my God, there's a fan crawling over the bear. Oh, it's Jim Benning offering her $4 million.
Well,
Our second pair is full up, but you can play at our third. Sorry. It's just beating a dead horse. Yes, Jesse?
LPG24 on our Reddit page writes, should the Leafs offer Bozak a deal? Center market is slim, and he is still good third line option?
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if he is. I haven't, to be honest with you, since the start of the season, that Bozak, Marner, JVR line, which wrecked worlds last year, was not effective at all. And they got bulldozed, and finally Marner's off that line and Brown's with them, and now they've kind of stabilized. And obviously, listen, JVR scored a pile of goals, but it's the same thing with Kessel. How many goals are scored against when JVR, Bozak, and Kessel were on the ice?
Yeah.
So now that Brown is there, there's some defensive accountability. But to me,
Let's just change the dynamic of the line. Yeah.
yeah, I don't see the. If he played like he had last year, I'd be like, okay. And he's a part of the first power play unit, which generates a ton of chances, and I'll grant you that. I am not. It depends on your options, but I have not been blown away by his play this year. He might be injured. It may not be his year. But to me, if I'm the Leafs, I'm taking a swing at Derek Brassard.
What did he ever do to you?
Who, Tyler Bozak? Or Derek
No, you're
Brassard?
taking a swing at us.
Oh, no,
That's
like-
so rude.
I'm really funny.
I want a guy like that. Or this summer, I go after Tavares.
Well,
Which, why not? Why not?
That'd be super cool.
Because you've got basically all of John Tavares' salary coming off the books in 3 players. Komarov, Bozak, and JVR coming off the books will pay for
But
John
we
Tavares.
have to give Austin Matthews $12 million.
Sure.
We do that.
Not right away.
Like next year. Like next summer.
So everyone loved dumping on Leo Komarov when he was on the power play, and rightfully so. The guy didn't score points, and he played on the power play. How many games ago was Bozak's last power play point?
36.
I don't know.
Well, Jesse, let's cut that into a third.
Why did you go that high,
Hey,
Jesse?
can that be my long division for the show?
It's supposed to be a shocking number, and you ruined it.
I forget.
Never! He's never scored one!
I think that's a Bill Burr bit where somebody asks him a number question. He's like 8 million. And he ruins it completely.
It was 12 games ago. It was
I'm so disappointed.
So-
January
before this
25th against
it's
Dallas.
36?
He's got 32 points on the season, which I would say is a bit disappointing. It's more disappointing when you realize he's got 5 points in his last 5 games. So, yes, he's hot at the moment, but that means 5 games ago he had 27. Like, this guy's he's not doing awesome. Now, centers are way too damn expensive. And when it comes to your third line option, I guess there are worse options out there. What if you can get him at a discount? Do you bring him back?
I mean, they like his face-offs and stuff.
But with that whole thing about the culture change, like I don't know if they want to bring him back.
I got to be honest. I don't think he's coming back. I think there you can find better options, and especially if they're bringing in a guy like Luke Glendening who locks down the fourth line forever and ever. Amen. You know, what about Miro Alton?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that because he's still young enough to be a prospect.
Mm-hmm. And he
Could be
almost
decent
made the
next
team.
year.
The tie went to the veteran who happened to be Don Moore.
It's almost like the fourth line center spot is more sacred. No, we need a big, abusive whatever back there.
Mm-hmm.
Third line center? Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, have it. Yeah, that sounds fine. I'm trying to find,
Who's up?
yes, who is up at all positions. Now, this is on Cap Friendly. It's not going to be the most accurate thing ever because they have some guys listed as like center wing, and they're not all going to be right. Joe Thornton, Paul Stastny,
Paul Stastny's up.
Henrik
Interesting.
Sedin, Thomas Buchanitz, John Tavares, Valtteri Filppula, Mikhail Grabowski. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. Tyler Bozak is 8th, and that's when it comes to cap hit, I believe. Matt Stajan, who I would never have guessed that. Guess how many years younger than Matt Stajan Tyler Bozak is?
Only 3. 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
What? Thomas Hertl is one of the winger center guys. I don't really know if he plays center. Boone Jenner, Ryan Spooner.
What about Brock Nelson?
I think there's options. I think they might go out there and try their best. Or try their luck.
Well,
try their luck, sorry, is what I meant to say. I think they're going to go out there and try their best.
We'll give him a gold star.
He's going to be great. You know what? You all tried, so you all win the cup. No, yeah, maybe they go out there and I think they let him go to free agency, but maybe they can bring him back. They go to free agency just to see, you know?
And you never know what could happen at the draft, too.
Never know what can happen at the draft. Boy, it is slim pickings. The number 12 guy is Eric Fehr. Number 14, Mark Letestu, Antoine Vermette. Boy, it is slim pickings, isn't it? There is a UFA who I wanted the Leafs to take a look at. I would love the Leafs to get this guy now, if they can. Derek Ryan from the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, you're probably wondering, who the hell is this?
I've never heard of him.
5'10", 170 pounds, so he'd be the smallest person in the room by a long shot. But he's got 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points in 58 games.
How much does he weigh?
170 pounds. I'm pretty sure Mitch Marner would be looking down at him. But who cares? Guy scores. You know
Does he
who
win
Derek
faceoffs?
Ryan would look down at? Johnny Gaudreau. I don't know if he wins faceoffs. I don't know enough about him. In 67 NHL games last year, he had 11 goals, 18 assists, 29 points in 67 games. Again, in a pretty limited role.
So that would be my question. Does he kill penalties? Does he win faceoffs? That's probably what they're going to be looking for.
I mean, Bozak doesn't kill penalties. So
Yeah.
mm.
But then you got Komarov, Bozak, JVR gone, right? So you got to look at those roles and that sort of thing. Anyway.
It's just a name. I'm throwing
Right,
the name
and
out
you
there.
never know, too, what the Leafs are going to...
I've read.
Yeah, you're never going to know. You never know what the Leafs will dig out of Russia, Finland, Sweden,
Oh, I know.
we know about Ozhiganov, but we don't really know much else.
Pull a friggin' rabbit out of the hat. I remember when they signed Soshnikov, I was like, who?
The Hawaiian hockey market's really heating up lately.
Huge.
Yeah,
Market inefficiency.
exactly.
You joke, but if anyone was going to figure that market out, I would hope it'd be the Leafs, the team with the most money.
I heard from a couple of sources that they're working on something that could potentially be a big deal.
I only want to know what you read.
I read it. as
Whoa!
well. Yeah,
Sources?
I
Do you have
read
sources?
through these sources.
I
read
read
it
something, wrote it down, read it aloud, and then I heard it.
myself.
Nice.
Say it. Yeah, so it's a big deal.
It's a pretty good source.
Sim 8.
Whoa! Yes, Adam? Oh, Adam's got a certain person's Twitter open. Is there a new one?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Is it another banger?
Yeah,
Who is
this is
this?
a banger. Brian Lawton again.
No.
We're closing the show with another banger from Brian
All
Lawton.
right.
Yeah.
Does that do on a good note?
Yeah.
Does the claiming of Taylor Chorney make it more likely that Jack Johnson of the Columbus Blue Jackets is traded by Monday? By the way, that is a question, but he didn't use a question mark. I am told, quote, only if it is a hockey deal that makes sense for this year's club making the playoffs. More prudent to trade him for BO if prices stay strong.
For BO.
Body odor? I don't know. I just love that. He just used the... It only makes sense if it's a hockey trade.
What's BO?
I don't know.
Can you read the
that
context?
again.
Yeah.
And read it the way it's written. Don't make it a question. Make it a statement.
Yeah, just
Does claiming of Taylor Chorney make it more likely that we will see Jack Johnson traded by Monday? Period. I am told, quote, only if it is a hockey deal that makes sense for this year's club making the playoffs. Period. More prudent to trade him for BO if prices stay strong.
Who does he work for?
NHL Network.
Yeah, someone there's got to talk to him. And be like, Brian, you're not tweeting so good, bud.
somebody take his phone.
It's not.
Listen, it's not that he doesn't have information.
Strategy.
I'm sure he does.
He needs strategy. Isn't he an agent?
Was former. Is now just an NHL. He's an NHL analyst for NHL Network.
And insider, Adam. He's a man.
A
He's an
trusted-
insider. And he wouldn't have this job if he wasn't smart.
Are you
All right?
Are you saying something, Steve? Are you saying that Brian Lawton?
I say nothing but the truth, Jesse.
Brian Lawton is smart.
Listen, this podcast is over, okay? You guys know too much.
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Brought to you by Panago Pizza. Order at panago.com and stuff your face with deliciousness.